Hey guys, Colton here. We'll get back to the podcast in just 1 minute. I just wanted to let you know that my new book, 24 Rules of Masculinity, is officially out. If you've been resonating with the topics we've hit on in this podcast, discipline, purpose, identity, what it means to be a man today, this book was built for you. It's a straight-talking guide packed with hard lessons, biblical principles, and the kind of clarity that I think a lot of us are starving for. So whether you're just starting on your journey or looking to get back on track, I wrote this to be something that you can pick up, apply, and carry with you. You can find the 24 Rules of Masculinity on Amazon and through the link in the description. I would love to hear what you guys think. Now, back to the episode. Welcome back to Chasing Masculinity. Today, we're hitting a topic that I'm not speaking on as an expert. I am just speaking on this as someone who is literally in the middle of the fight. This isn't theory. This is something that I actually need to reclaim in my own life. And I want to talk through it loud and clearly and honestly and directly because I am sure I am not the only one. And what we're talking about is digital discipline. Not the abstract concept, the very real, very modern problem of constantly reaching for your phone the second you feel bored. The instinctive pull towards scrolling, losing minutes that turn into hours, breaking your attention to pieces without you even realizing it. Over the past couple months, I've noticed something in myself that I really don't like. My attention span is not what it used to be. I'll be sitting with my wife or watching something or even just standing in the kitchen, and I'll just pull up my phone and start scrolling without even thinking. Not because I'm choosing to do it, but because I've allowed myself to become conditioned to it. And that's really not how we're supposed to live. A man should be present. A man should be focused. A man should be able to hold his attention on what's actually in front of him, whether that be his wife or home or work or whatever his purpose is, without needing to escape into a screen every single time he feels even a moment of discomfort or boredom. Digital discipline is not this phone bad, books good. It's about training your mind, training your impulses, training your attention, because your attention is your life. And every time you hand it away to a screen without a thought, you're giving away a piece of yourself. So today, I want to walk through a practical framework, not any sort of advice from a pedestal by any means, not moralizing from a distance. This is me working out a problem for myself and kind of letting you listen in. So if you happen to struggle with this too, that means we can maybe fix this. That means we can build some sort of plan that I'm going to try to implement for myself. Hopefully that means we can actually get better. So with that, let's get into it. So let's start by talking about the problem, and that is that automatic scrolling and loss of presence. There is a habit, that phone, it comes out the second there is no other stimulation around. That could be standing in line at a Starbucks or waiting at a red light, hopefully not in your car. That could be during commercial breaks if you're watching something on TV or you're waiting for your food, or it literally could be in between sentences in a conversation. This has no longer become really a conscious choice. The hand moves before the brain can even really register the desire. It doesn't even feel like there's a decision anymore, just an impulse. What this actually is it's not entertainment. It's just stimulation. It is not some sort of escape. It is literally just an avoidance of any sort of stillness. It is not boredom. It's this discomfort without silence. This digital distraction is becoming a sort of mental noise. There's constant intake, and it's leaving no room for any sort of thought or reflection or even just plain boredom. There's this emotional numbness to things. These dopamine spikes are flattening out our emotional sensitivity. And there is a break in presence. That means you're maybe physically there, but mentally you are literally everywhere else. And there is a real cost to this. Your wife might speak and you nod, but you're not actually with her. She's going to see that and she's going to feel that. And your attention that you're giving her is just communicating how you value her. You are missing any sort of micro moments of peace and clarity. The breath before responding, that internal check-in, the quiet presence that's building confidence. Your attention span is eroding. Deep thinking is becoming harder. Reading is becoming harder. Praying is becoming harder. Silence is becoming uncomfortable. These dopamine dependencies are replacing patience and stillness. I'm feeling this every time I pull out my phone rather than just living in the moment. Now, the key idea here isn't that the phones are the enemy. It's just about your attention. Attention is kind of a man's steering wheel. Attention is how anybody's going to observe reality or discern direction, make decisions, even lead in your home. Attention is kind of the currency of masculinity. And when your attention fractures, you fracture. So why does all of this matter? Who cares if we just like scrolling on our phones and escaping a little bit of reality? Well, this presence is leadership. You can't lead what you're not present for. Your physical presence without mental presence is kind of an abdication. It's an abdication of your duty as a man. You are abdicating your presence and therefore your leadership. This distraction is also a form of passivity. This constant scrolling is kind of the modern version of just checking out. It's a retreat without any actual movement. It's kind of the easy button of escapism. It's avoiding engagement while still technically being in the room. This could have impacts on areas of your life. I know it's certainly led to some uncomfortable conversations in my own marriage. You do not need to say, hey, my phone's more important than you, but your attention is kind of already saying it for you. Women tend to measure love through presence and engagement. They want you physically there. And when you are just scrolling, you create emotional distance or an unspoken disappointment or even just some sort of invisible resentment. I mean, think about if you're trying to have a conversation with somebody and their eyes don't even look up from their phone. This could have an impact on your identity as well. You are going to become reactive, not intentional. That's that social media trains where you're constantly seeing these reels or these videos where it's just training your impulse to take control over your discipline or your reaction to be more important than any sort of direction that you've already defined in your life. There is a consumption that you're just constantly taking in what others are putting out, and there's no actual creation of your own. This is creating a distracted modern man, and a distracted man cannot build anything that is durable. A man who can't even control his attention can't control his life, let alone lead and create a better world. This death of attention, it very well could be the downfall of masculinity if we're not careful here. And that's why I've been feeling so convicted lately, not just because it's had some negative impacts of me scrolling with my attention span and being less present, but I genuinely feel like this could be a serious problem for everybody. So now let's talk about the framework, meaning the boundaries that you will set. This isn't necessarily about restriction, but it is about training discipline in the same way that lifting is going to train strength. So here are some things that I have heard others try, that I've tried previously and have worked for me, and that I'm going to try re-implementing in my life. That is 1, no phones at night. After any time, pick a time, 8 p.m., the phone is docked in its designated location. It's on the kitchen counter or in your office, or it's charging somewhere. I use it as an alarm clock. I know everybody says not to do that. I'm probably going to keep doing that, but that's something that I think is probably another really positive thing that you can do is to get an actual alarm clock and go plug your phone in somewhere else so it's not on the nightstand. The phone really doesn't need to follow you into the bedroom or the couch or any sort of shared family evening time. If there is something that you're supposed to have your attention to, that's where it should be. It shouldn't be sidetracked to your phone. The purpose of that would be to protect any sort of presence with your spouse or any sort of peace you have before bed, because that blue light that comes from the phone, even with the night version screen on, there's still light that's impacting your circadian rhythm where you're not supposed to have that sort of direct light into your eyes. So it's protecting your actual peace before bedtime to allow you to sleep better. It's protecting your mind too from overstimulation. You don't want these mental spikes before going to bed. And at the end of the day, you want it to have some sort of intentionality, not just numbly scrolling. And that leads me to the next thing is no scrolling while doing something else. So if you're literally doing something else, there's no reason to also scroll. We don't need to multitask. That's not a life hack. That's not multitasking for your benefit. So no phone while just watching TV. If you're going to watch a football game, watch the football game. No phone while eating or walking. Don't be walking around staring at your phone. I'm not saying that you're not allowed to ever look at your phone while walking. I do it a lot, but it's because I'm physically doing something. It's not because I'm just scrolling, looking at random videos. No phones while waiting. If you are waiting for something, just look around and see everybody else stare at their phones. This is something a mentor of mine said he started doing in his own life. And he would just go to Starbucks or coffee shops or waiting in line at a grocery store or a restaurant, wherever he was. And he would just look around and refuse to pull his phone out while he was waiting for something. And he just looked around and every other person was just necks down staring at their phone. And he said it was very freeing to be in that presence. No phones during conversations either. If you are talking to somebody, that is what you're doing, is you are talking to somebody. Single tasking, not multitasking, single tasking is masculine. It's building a mental strength. It's training your depth of engagement, forcing you to focus on this one thing. And this is something I really struggle with because I was a big life hacker. I wanted to try to optimize everything, do multiple things at the same time. So that way it's less work for me, less time. I'm trying to optimize all this time and effort to maximize my outcome. And there are certainly avenues where that could be very helpful. But what it ended up doing was I started doing a lot of things really quick, but really poorly. So I was listening to a podcast while making the bed while I was, trying to read something else. There's just levels. And what I ended up doing was not doing anything very well. So focusing on that single tasking can help build that mental strength and that depth in what you're actually engaging in, because it's anchoring your mind back into reality. Hey, this is a physical thing that I'm doing right now. And this could have some cool effects. You could stop treating your life like it's just some background noise. You could actually begin to experience your actual environment again. And yeah, you're going to learn to be bored, but at least you're remaining aware. All right, and the next one is something that I've tried and actually worked out well for me in the past, and then I kind of stopped doing it for a while, and I want to get back into this, and that is limit 3 scrolling sessions per day. Now, that doesn't mean set a time limit. That doesn't mean, hey, I only get 10 minutes of social media every day. I didn't put a time limit on it. I just set an occurrence limit. So if you're going to sit and scroll, it's going to be intentional. If you want to sit and scroll for an hour, then that only counts as one time, but that's what you're doing. You are sitting down or you are focusing your attention on that. It's not this instinct to pull it out every single time. There is this sort of awareness before the reach and this intention before consuming. Like, oh crap, this is the 3rd time I pulled up my phone. It's not even noon yet. This is my last one. Do I want to use it now? There's a choice that has to be made rather than just this compulsion. It forced me to really, if I wanted to sit down and consume something, I had to be intentional about it. And if I pulled out my phone and started scrolling and then 30 seconds later I caught myself or something came up and I had to redirect my focus somewhere else, then guess what? I lost that occurrence. It's gone. I only got 3 a day. There's a psychology behind this. This addiction is living in this mindless repetition. So limiting that frequency is actually reintroducing choice back into the behavior. It's not getting rid of your scrolling time. It's not saying you can't scroll for hours a day. It's just saying this is the amount of occurrences that I have set, so I can't pull it out on every whim and every desire. It has to be intentional. And that kind of helped me for a while. Now, How can we actually implement these? 1, remove that passive access. The core problem, I think, is there's just frictionless availability. If your phone's in your pocket, it's going to be used without thinking. So create friction. Make your phone something that you have to choose to access. That could mean having a designated location for your phone when you're at your house. Maybe it stays in the kitchen or at a shelf in the entryway or a drawer in your office. This works really well if you have a work phone too, which I know a lot of us don't, and our cell phones are now our work phones. The phone doesn't have to follow you around the house. It doesn't have to be on the couch next to you. It doesn't have to be in arm's reach whenever you're trying to relax. If you have to stand up and walk to get your phone, the brain has to evaluate, wait, do I actually need this? You are training choice over impulse. You're training intention over reflex. My wife's gotten really good at this. The phone will sit somewhere in the house, and sometimes she doesn't even know where it is, but she's not scrolling anymore. If she is, it's intentional. She's made a choice to actually go and do that, but it doesn't need to be with her 24/7. And you kind of realize, no, there's not an emergency that someone needs to reach out to you and you have to answer immediately if you have to have your phone on you 24/7. No, you don't have to always have your phone in case you have to check something or Google something or in case you have notification. It never happens. You don't actually have to live with it next to you all the time. She's been doing this for the better half of a year now, and it seems to be working pretty well for her. She hasn't missed a single beat because it really doesn't have a true bearing on your life. She's replaced that habit. And that's because scrolling is not about content. It's just about avoiding that stillness. When that boredom hits, you need a programmed alternative. And some of those options to replace that sort of digital reflex could be just sitting in silence for 60 seconds. Just sit there, count to 60, and then see if you still need it. Relearn your stillness. Rebuild that attention span, the ability to do that. If you can't sit for 60 seconds in stillness before going and doing something else, you probably didn't need to scroll either. You could go pick up a book. That's physical. That's grounding you. And it will also help retrain your sustained attention over long periods of time. Go talk to somebody. Go talk to your spouse or your coworker. That presence, being physically present, reinforces a connection, and it signals value. Maybe you don't have to send a quick Teams message while scrolling on your phone. Go talk to that person on the other side of the office, even if it's just 30 seconds. Go for a walk, too. That movement's going to kind of flush that dopamine stagnation. Just look around. Look at your environment. No one says it has to be during lunch either. Go take a 5-minute walk. No one's going to miss you for 5 minutes if you get up from your desk and have to just go take a quick lap around the building. That break is going to also break the compulsion loop of wanting to sit and scroll. You can also just learn to do nothing. I think this one's the hardest, but that's letting boredom re-enter your life. That boredom is the birthplace of creativity and reflection and clarity. So the key behind this is you're not fighting your phone. You're fighting yourself to become comfortable with your own mind. The phone's not the bad guy. Social media is not the bad guy. It's that impulse that we've allowed to take over control. It's interrupting the automatic reach. This discipline doesn't happen at the moment of scrolling. It happens before your thumb even touches the screen. So there's a sequence that you have to learn, you have to develop. That is 1, that micro boredom moment appears. And then 2, your hand immediately moves for your phone. And 3, that's when you catch it, right there. When your hand's moving, when you realize, oop, I got that trigger in my mind that I'm bored, and I started going for the phone right away. That's when you catch it. And when you start catching those moments, you're training those moments. You have this 3-second window where you can say in your head or even out loud, not right now, I will decide when to reach. Because you didn't make that decision consciously. You have to be the one to make it consciously before you do that. So every time you catch yourself, you're not only going to realize how often you actually reach for your phone in those moments of boredom, you're going to realize how often you do it without even making it intentional. And then you have to train yourself to be intentional about it. And then you just repeat this every time. That's how you can build this sort of digital discipline in these sort of 3-second windows of there's a trigger, your hand goes for your phone, you catch yourself, and you don't allow yourself to scroll aimlessly unless you intentionally do it. So, how could you possibly implement this? Here's a potential plan. I don't know if this is one that I'm going to follow exactly, but here is something that you could start if you are really struggling with this. The first week could just be no phones at night. That means you set your phone at whatever designated dock location. The phone goes there after whatever time you've decided, 8 p.m., and you don't retrieve it. And just notice how often you want to go for it, how often the impulse hits without you actually thinking about it. And just do that for a week just to become aware of the addiction. Then the second week, you could start implementing no multitask scrolling. So you continue week 1, but then you add, if you're doing something else during the day, not just after whatever time, 8 p.m. you set, you don't also scroll. So if you watch TV, you watch. If you're eating, you eat. If you're talking, you talk. You don't need to multitask while scrolling. And there's going to be a lot of frustration with that because your brain's going to be detoxing from this constant stimulation. Then the third week, you can add to both of those. So you're continuing the no phones at night and you're continuing the no multitask scrolling. And then you add the limit to whatever number you set. It could be 1 time, could be 5 times, say 3 times a day. So you're continuing these, but now you're counting how many times throughout the day that you're still scrolling. So you're not multitask scrolling anymore, and it's not after, let's say, at 8 p.m. at night, but now it's any time in the day, and you're just counting how many times you do it, and you set a limit. Not necessarily minutes, although you could do that too, but just occurrences, just sessions. See how many times you are actually doing this, and then that makes you choose them deliberately. That's going to develop the intention behind it. And then in the 4th week, to wrap up the month, you could just reflect and recalibrate. How present are you now? Or was there one that you really couldn't do? Or could you not do any of them? Do you need to be more strict? Or do you need this to be a longer, drawn-out plan with smaller steps? Was it too much? Was your brain too addicted? Or did it work? Was your mind calmer? How much more connection actually exists between you and the others in your life? Do you feel more distracted or more focused? You might feel more distracted. I don't know. It's just kind of developing the habits that are beneficial and then seeing how your body adapts. There might be a period of discomfort or what feels like a downward spiral for a little bit before you're able to start rebuilding. And then you can also check to see if your discipline anywhere else has increased too, like your diet or training or your work ethic, prayer life, emotional presence, any of these other areas that might actually have been impacted without you realizing it from this constant scrolling. So to close this one out, it's not about your phone. It is all about the choices you make and how you've allowed this sort of addiction to take over. It's not about the technology or social media. It's not about the productivity hacks. It's just about whether you're in control of your mind or if your mind's controlled by your impulse. Digital distraction is not entertainment. It is an escape. It's passivity. It's an erosion of that presence. And I'm not trying to eliminate the phone, but I am trying to create this sort of training within myself so I have the ability to stay where I am, to be present with my wife, to be rooted in my own thoughts, to be the man I'm meant to be right here and not somewhere else. Because this digital discipline is not about restriction per se, it's more about just learning to live with your eyes more open. It's about becoming aware of the matrix that we've now been trapped in. And that's the challenge right there. It's not to delete every app. It's not to swear off technology. It's just to build the discipline to be present when it truly matters most. Because that's what digital discipline really is. It's presence. It's not about control over your phone. It's about control over yourself. Because every time you resist that reflex to scroll, you're not just saving time. You're actually strengthening authority over your intention. And that's the foundation of every masculine discipline. Intention and attention and awareness and the ability to stay where you are. So this week, don't try to be perfect, just try to be aware. Notice how often your hand actually reaches before your mind even decides to, and then try to interrupt that moment every time so you can choose stillness, choose presence, because that's where real strength lives. And a man who is able to command his attention is able to command his life and lead. He's learning to stay and learning to focus, learning to be where your feet actually are. That is digital discipline. And that's where masculinity can begin. So thank you for tuning in. And until next time, guys, keep chasing masculinity.